What does it take to be the video game of the decade? Is it the fun factor? The actual moment-to-moment gameplay happening while we play and nothing else? Surely it could be Doom, then, because that game is a hell of a lot of fun. Is it how interesting the concept is?
Welcome to the Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center.
Certainly Portal 2 fits the bill perfectly. Or is it the story, the world, and the people of our games?
Once upon a time, I had somebody that I cared about.
If it is, then you have to give it to The Last of Us. Or is it something else? Maybe it's everything. How we play the game, how it makes us feel, and how the game impacts us on a personal level and the industry as a whole. Dark Souls came to mind at first, seeing as how it essentially created its own subgenre of action games. But then I realized it was Demon Souls that accomplished that. Demon Souls was the true innovator. Dark Souls was simply the refinement that came after. Moving to a new healing system to prevent potion farm abuse, making an interconnected world to bring continuity to the gaminess of level selection, replacing the tendency system with covenants to offer more player agency, and making snappier combats and a better camera to make the gameplay better. The industry simply made it seem like Dark Souls made a quantum leap from its original, but that's only because not many people played Demon Souls. Most of what people know as Very Dark Souls was pre-existing with Demon Souls. Bonfires, respawning enemies, hardcore difficulty, and even the multiplayer system of leaving messages for players on the ground. Demon Souls was far more influential looking back at the lineage of this franchise, and to fail to see that would give a great disservice to anyone who created it. When Namco realized Demon Souls was cherished deeply by so many people, they refined it with Dark Souls, and the rest is history. I also considered Breath of the Wild for Game of the Decade. It's hard to escape the drowsiness of traditional open-world ended games as you follow a voracious trail of map icons from one quest hub to the next. You really feel locked into a grind. Zelda's game world doesn't feel this way at all. It's free and expansive, and the gameplay is too. It never blocks anything off unless you wander around a brilliant map filled with cities, dungeons, shrines, and collectibles, and as long as you have the stamina, you're free to go anywhere you want. Yet the game does naturally lead you towards the conflict smack dab in the middle of the map, when it's all said and done. And with an art style that rivals the best of Wind Waker and Skyward Sword, more difficult and fluid combats, and an insane amount of tools to play with, Wild achieved something truly special. I could have also gone easily with 2018's mind-blowing God of War. God of War is an excellent game, a technical masterpiece with a good story, interesting character arcs, and a satisfying and weighty combat system. More importantly though, it had a cultural impact on gaming. For years leading up to GOW, top gaming publishers were adamant that the single-player game was dead, too costly, unwanted, and out of date, that linear games don't sell. My ass. God of War slashed away the notion that that could ever be true and led it to being one of the most successful games of all time. But I didn't choose God of War for Game of the Decade, and I didn't choose Mass Effect 2, or Skyrim, or The Last of Us, or Bloodborne. In the end, I picked The Witcher 3. To be honest, I didn't pick The Witcher 3 because it's anywhere near perfect. Any knucklehead can feel that there's something deeply wrong with the control system the moment they pick up the gamepad. It's clunky, stiff, and it's downright awkward indoors. Moving through small houses, alleyways, or upstairs is a pain, and in combat, movement can feel graceless thanks to soft lock-on. There's this gluey feeling to the controls that feels strange and very unnatural, almost as if the game is unresponsive to some degree. Take Roach out for a spin on bumpy terrain or up a mountain and you'll see exactly what I mean. The control is unruly and unyielding, and you basically run into everything. I have to imagine the creators really didn't want it to feel this way. The Wild Hunt and Nilfgaard are also surprisingly underdeveloped. Rarely do we see Nilfgaard's cultural diversity mentioned in the game's various books. Here they are invaders for narrative purposes. You have to go far out of your way to learn anything about them of substance, and the same goes for the Wild Hunt. I wasn't expecting huge amounts of development, considering their screen time, but when most of what we get is a bunch of one-liners from a gang of faceless Skeletor clones, it feels a bit of a missed opportunity. Both groups are missing a degree of characterization you'd expect when the rest of the game is so rich. Considering The Witcher 3 is not a game of black and white, the Wild Hunt especially simply sticks out as a generic evil. Ask yourself who's your favorite villain in The Witcher 3. I highly doubt it's Aridin. And combat, is it great? I wouldn't say that it's bad, but it's definitely not the best part of the game. It can be janky and it doesn't flow very well on the whole. But every game has its flaws, even the best of games. I get annoyed when my weapons break in Zelda. I wish the gunplay in The Last of Us was more responsive, and I wish GTA 5's controls didn't feel like wood. The Witcher 3 is the same. General combat needs work, the alchemy system can feel like an afterthought on default difficulty, and the game isn't really all that hard. Also, padding. It's here, most games have it, open world or not. Persona 4, Fallout, Far Cry, name any game, it'll be there. Quest level requirements, collectibles, hearts, backtracking, skill points, stat points, inventory space upgrades, etc. Don't forget why these at first very innocent things exist. Some games take their flaws to the grave, eaten alive by the disproportion of the frequency, but The Witcher 3 does not. The Witcher 3 as a game had a stunning amount of care put into making the story and the world and the immersion feel unforgettable. It's dynamic and thought-provoking, full of choices and densely packed with twists, turns, and nods to prior games. At every corner, something interesting seems to happen. A Tower of Mice, Where the Wolf and Cat Play, No Place Like Home, Paper Chase, and so many more interesting quests. Not presented in some generic way though, but complicated, cloudy, and very different, especially the cast. Imagine reading the Red Baron's synopsis on a sheet of paper. Alcoholic man hurts family and seeks forgiveness for what he's done. Not the most original idea, is it? It's likely we have seen something based off the drunken man trope before, some game, some movie, some poem, some TV crime show, looking to portray the same emotions or character. But does it ever turn out any other way than you'd expect? Does it ever get as twisted, naughty, and morbid? A simple trope turned into a multi-hour spiderweb of intricate detail full of immediate player choice in the matter, with no one ending up the same in the end, whatever road they take. It hits on every emotional peak and valley, and it's only one quest in the game. How about this headline? Woman plays love song in a tavern. Or Siri? It's the classic gifted child on the run trope. The framework of The Witcher 3 is quite basic, but its intentions and presentation are extraordinary. Content has an amazing amount of characterization and intricacy, taking you into these beautiful lands full of strange faces and interesting things to see. These people have real stories, many the player can partake in, often influence outcomes as well. It can be hard not to care when so much work was put into the game. Even the monsters, gross as they may be, they are not black and white. Werewolves with feelings. Vampires, are they friends or foes? Mutants we might pity, and more. Even a ghost in a tree has a story. Unlike the often forgotten or left behind in other titles or movies or shows, The Witcher 3 never undermines the player by resorting to cheap content thrills, thin character developments, or throwaway story bits. If you find something in The Witcher 3, chances are it's well fleshed out and probably exciting. What results is immersion. It can be incredibly engrossing to those willing to dive off into the deep end, into The Witcher 3's tale, as you'll learn so much about why you're playing it and what it means to those in it. It's got flaws aplenty, as I mentioned earlier, but they don't detract from the immersion, any more than getting sand between your toes makes going to the beach not fun. It is a beautiful game, an enchanting adventure, and a complicated masterpiece, with a few flaws that are very easy to ignore when all is said and done. I chose The Witcher 3 for Game of the Decade because it's simply the most immersive RPG I've ever played, and it has everything you would want in a game. In one package, you get the best of what a movie, a game, and a book can provide, brought to life beautifully in front of your eyes. If you'd like to learn more about The Witcher 3, I have several more videos that discuss it in much more detail, and I'll link them down below in the description. And with that, I bid you guys a farewell. I'll see you guys in 2020.